Tuesday. I can't believe it's Tuesday yet again. It sure does come round very quickly. And we'll just wait for a few people to join the party and get groovy. So I can see people sort of tuning in. I'll just wait for a few comments to pop up. Good morning and welcome. I hope you're all doing okay. Nice and sunny outside today down here in Kent. Bit fresh, but nice and sunny. So hopefully I'll still see some message. Oh, who is it? I wonder. Oh, look, it's Jilly. Good morning, Jilly. Sound is great. Thank you. Good morning, Jane. There's the lovely Jilly, the lovely Glynis. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Groovy Tuesday. Here you'll come Hazel, Bernie, Helen. Good morning, everybody. Yes, it's so nice to see so many friendly names in the little chat that just pops up at the side. So, yeah, Tuesday, it comes around very, very quickly some weeks, and some weeks it feels like a big gap. And it seems as if it was a long time since we last met, but it wasn't. It was only a week ago. So haven't got any company today. I'm on my own. So no Linda Williams and no Gola this week. And if you're thinking who's Gola, Gola's my lovely little dog who joined us briefly at the beginning of the session last week. If it's the first time you're tuning in, welcome. And you can catch up with all of our previous episodes of Groovy Tuesday, the Pergamano Score, the Shack Shack, Moments of Clarity, Clarity Craft Alongs, all over on the Clarity Stamp YouTube page. There's a full library of tutorials and projects, and yeah, it grows. I mean, if you think about it, we do 3 sessions a week live on Facebook, which is the Shack on Monday at 10 o'clock, Groovy Tuesday on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, and then the Shack Shack again on Thursday at 10 o'clock. So all of those, plus everything else that we do, is all available on the Clarity Stamp YouTube page. So if you're thinking, oh, new, what's all that about? Then I'm sure Jilly will pop. There we go. I can see Jilly's put the link in already. Thank you, Jilly. So just click that link, maybe now or later, and it will take you over to our YouTube page. And it is just full of so much ideas, inspiration. If you're just looking to chill out for an hour or so, then just click any of the videos and obviously join it. Well, not joining, because obviously they're just all recordings. We also have the lovely blog that Barbara does, barbaragrayblog.com. And on a Sunday, we have the Clarity Matters blog. And I think there's about 71 step-by-step, I think it's 71 now, step-by-step tutorials. There's some inky ones, there's some stampy ones, but the majority of them are parchment related. So, and during the course of this month, the lovely Josie Davidson, each Sunday at 12 o'clock it gets published, there will be a step-by-step using various different grids, because what we're looking at this month in Groovy Tuesday is beautiful grid work. So if you're always looking for, maybe you've got some plates in the past, go back and have a look at all the Clarity Matters blogs. There is a section on the Clarity Stamp website called blog tutorials. You can click on that link and they're all in one place. And so you can then, it shows you the ingredients that have been used. It shows you gives you a direct link to the blog. You've got a little finished picture, and the design team works so hard putting all those step-by-steps together so that at home you can then follow along if you choose to. So a massive thank you to all the design team that helps with that. And it's just a full library of step-by-step tutorials. So yeah, so let's have a look. Who have we got in the room? So I can see a few people. We've got lovely Hilda, Jackie, Ellen. Good morning, Ken, Catherine, Jane Telford. So welcome to another Groovy Tuesday. How are we all doing today? We all good? Yes, I think, as Barb says, we just take one day at a time, don't we? We just deal with what's in front of us for the day ahead and just go with it. So, and I thought this month during Groovy Tuesday, we'd have a look at some grid work. And without Josie Davidson, there's no way that I would even attempt to do beautiful grid work. And she designs these beautiful patterns. She does all the counting for us. She does all the measuring. And then Jim and the guys in the office, they then translate Josie's designs and put them onto a Groovy plate. So that means people like me and you at home can then create beautiful artwork just like the experts. So let me show you a couple of different designs that we have in the collections. So we have Princess Charlotte. So there's 4 different princesses, and what you'll notice, you can see this side here on the plate is whiter. Okay, so this is the groovy part of it where we do our tracing out. And then on the right hand side, it's slightly fainter, and these are all drilled holes. So this allows us then to work with our design, overlay it onto the perforated side, and then perforate. In each of the plates, you also get a cutting guide as well, but we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. I just wanted to give you a show off a couple of the different designs. So we've got princesses. We have the beautiful circular grids. Now, these were really spectacular. So rather than going sort of squares, rectangles, straight borders, Josie came up with these lovely circular ones. And you've got them in 2 different sizes. You've got your large one, and then you've got a smaller one as well. Then we move on to the Italian cities. Now, the Italian cities, you'll notice, let me just bring in one of the princesses. You'll notice that with a lot of the Duet plates, it's like a right angle, okay? But with the Rome, you'll notice that it's a horseshoe. And the reason being is because this is based on a diagonal pattern. So although it's the same design, it's different, if that sort of makes sense. So across these 2 ends, you can see that the rectangles are going that way, but we wouldn't be able to get them going that way to give it an equal thing. So these are based on a diagonal grid. Okay, so I can see Josie's in the room. So so if you've got any questions, I mean, Queen of Grids is in the room. So if I miss a question, I'm sure she'll answer. Then we have the beautiful palaces. Now, this was different again because what Josie did on this one was she incorporated some beautiful corners. So you can use the corners on their own, you can incorporate it within the design, or you can just use the outer frame. Next, we have the kings. More beautiful designs. And you'll notice that as I go through all of these different design plates, they've got solid lines on both the outside and the inside. And that was an idea from Barb. She thought it would be really good for people that aren't necessarily into the picot cutting yet. Then by introducing these straight lines, it would mean that you could just take a craft knife or your paper trimmer and then just trim down rather than having to do all the fancy cutting. Then we decided to go big, and the recent ones were the French cities. So these are A4 square in size. These were all A5 square, and this is an A4 square. You'll notice with the French cities that it's a horseshoe again, which means it's based on a diagonal grid. And we can clearly see the design, the way in which it works. Then we have, oh, I love these ones. These were the ribbon lace ones. So the idea behind this set of plates were that you could, when you've done all your perforating and your cutting, oh, sneaky peek there, take that out of the way. Once you've done all your cutting, then if you wanted to, you could thread ribbon through them. Okay. And then the next one were the princes. A4 square in design again, based on a straight grid because we've just got the right angle. See, what I love, I know I keep saying what I love, but for me, to have the confidence to be able to create beautiful pieces of frames or panels or sections, Josie has done all the work for you, and what she's done, and then incorporating it in with the perforating. Now you can use them both independent of one another, but when you bring them together, that's when the magic really happens. So that's a little sort of, not a sneak peek, it's just a little bit of a preview of some of the plates that we have on the collection. And that's just one from the various different ranges, and there will be 3 others to go with them. So there's 4 princes, 4 ribbons, 4 kings, 4 queens. So have a look on the website and see what you can find. Okay. Now, last week we started with Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth. And I spoke to JC beforehand when we were looking at doing the show. And I said, do you reckon Elizabeth would be a good one to start with? And she went, yes, really, really simple. There's not much embossing, not much perforating, and it's a really great one to get started. And I also thought it was good considering it's the Queen's Jubilee this year, 70 years as Queen. So I thought that was quite apt as well. So this is what we've been using. We started it last week. Now, if you have any of the other grids, what I showed last week regarding doing the embossing and then lining it up so that you get your perfect rectangle or square will be the same principle on all of the various different collections. So if you've got a different plate that you're working with and maybe you missed last week's episode, then you can catch up on that for some really good hints and tips. I mean, they're not from me, it's what I've picked up from Barbara and Josie and all the fantastic design team on how to, for the positioning. So when we looked at this last week, what we did was we just embossed, if I come back on the overhead, we just created a rectangle. And before we decided on the rectangle, I had a little topper, another piece of parchment, to give me the idea on how big a piece that I wanted my frame to be, whether I wanted to go for a square. So I've got this one here that Josie's done. So this is a square, or whether I wanted a rectangle. So sometimes it's a good idea to know the size of the piece that you're working to as your centerpiece. Okay. So we did all the embossing and then we added in the straight lines. Okay. So that's what we did last week. And I thought this week, what we'll do now is we'll do the perforating. But before we do the perforating, just by coincidence, because the plate hadn't even been made or designed when I started last week, we have this beautiful Make Art, Not War A6 Groovi plate. So 50% of all proceeds will be donated to the British Red Cross in aid of the Ukraine, what's going on there. And so Barbara brought out the stamp, and then a couple of days later, we launched this on A Moment of Clarity on Friday, just gone. And it's proven very, very popular. And I thought this would be a fantastic centerpiece for this grid piece that we're creating. So if I take my piece of parchment, I can go Make Art, Not War. I could take the big sunflower. I could take the little sunflower. I could use part of the sunflower border. So I've wanted to showcase that, but it's really weird because, as I said, this hadn't even been designed when we did Groovy Tuesday last week. Sometimes things happen for a reason, don't they? And it's just a perfect opportunity for that. Okay, so what are we going to need today? So to do our perforating, we're going to need our piece of artwork. And right, let's go to the overhead and we'll bring in all the bits and pieces. Right, so overhead. So I'm going to be working with the 12 by 12 black super foam. Gives me a larger area to work on. If you've got the black A4 super foam, then that's great, because when we work on that and we put our parchment over the top, we can see our perforations. However, we also do it in white. And why do we do it? Ooh, blurry. Hang on, let me bring that one out. There we go. We also do it in white as well. And if I put the plate on top and I put my parchment on, I can't see anything. So the white is so that you can use it with your light panel. Let me just show you. If I pop that underneath, just like that. So the light panel, I'm going to put that over the top. It has three. Oh, I haven't switched it on. Hang on. Let me just reach down and flick the switch. There we go. So we've got 1, 2, and 3. So we can see that. So the light panel is there. So now when I pop that on top and I pop my plate into place, let's come over on this camera, you might see that better. There we go. And then I put my piece of artwork on top. For me, it's a lot easier to see. I can work with the black, but if I'm doing this at home, then I would use my light panel. So it's just giving you various different options when you come to do your perforating. So I'll just switch that off and we'll go back to our mats. So as I said, black or white, depending on what method you're going to do for your perforating. So we'll stick with the black to start with. We're going to need our piece of artwork. Let's put this out of the way. We need Queen Elizabeth plate, if that's what we're using. And I'm going to use Josie's plate mate for grids. Okay. Josie designed this specifically to where it was a conversation she had with Barb. And she said, wouldn't it be great if we had a plate mate that has loads of lines around the outside for when we're working with our grids, that we can position our parchment to make sure that it's straight. So rather than just give you a plate mate with loads of straight lines, Josie then incorporated some beautiful embossed dot patterns. So you've got an alphabet in there, you've got beautiful, quick and easy designs that you can just emboss to add enhancements to your designs. And if I turn it around that way, if I do it that way, you can really see, look, all those different patterns on there, loads of different lines. So it doesn't matter where you position your parchment, it's always going to be lined up correctly. Okay. Now, you'll also notice if I wanted to just put my A4 parchment on there, I've got some larger lines around the outside as well. So if I wanted to create a frame using this, then it's easy to do as well. So I'm going to go with this plate mate for today. And I've got my plate, I've got my parchment. Now we're going to use the number 1 bold tool. All of our grids have been designed on a bold needle tool. And that's because it's easier to work with. If you're starting out on Gridwork for the first time, it really does help if you can see the hole. So we've got the 1 needle fine, but the 1 needle bold is a great one for starting out on. The bigger the hole, the easier it is to get your scissors into to learn picot cutting. So we're going to need our 1 needle bold. We're going to need our tumble dry sheet. We're going to need some Groovi tabs. And we are also most definitely going to need, I've got it in, I haven't unpacked yet, the Groovi guard. Okay. So I think that's everything I need. We don't need any embossing tools because we're going to have a look at perforating today. Yeah, I think that's all that we need. Not a lot, really, is it? Just few essentials. And for embossing, perforating, picot cutting, as Barb always says, it's about being on that bus journey. The Groovi plate gives you the beautiful line art, or in this case, the beautiful embossed dots. Then, because it's easy to do and you get confident, you then want to learn more, whether it be the white work, the colouring, the perforating, the picot cutting. And what I'm going to stop. The Groovi system, oh, stop. No, I'm going to say it because I do. What I love about the Groovi system is that being on that bus journey, the way in which Barb describes it, you can stop at any of those different bus stops and you'll have a beautiful piece of artwork, no matter what skill level you're at. You just want to trace out the line art, job done. Do it on coloured parchment, rainbow parchment, designer parchment. You haven't even got to worry about colouring it in. But you will. You'll want to learn how to do that. So you'll go to that next step and you think, oh, I want to do a little bit of white work. Then there's some plates out there that will work specifically for learning your white work. And we've had a look at those over the past year. Some of the ones that have got small areas, like especially the butterfly reef, that's a great one for practicing white work and also for your colouring as well, because it has small areas to work on. But as I say, it doesn't matter what stop you go to, then you're going to have a lovely piece of artwork. So I think I've waffled enough to give you a chance to get all your bits and pieces. I haven't been able to read any of the questions because I've been talking to everybody. So should we get started? I think we should. And I'm sure if there was any pertinent questions there, Julie would have popped them up by text. Let me just check. My phone hasn't buzzed. No, it hasn't. Okay, right. So just to recap, last week when we was looking at the plate, let me come in on this one. You've got a lovely bit of glare. So when we have a look, the plate says emboss this side up. And if I run my fingers over, I can feel the engraving. Okay, so that's what we worked on the side last week in order to create our frame. This week, we're going to turn our plate over so that we can read perforate this side up. And we're now looking at the area that has all the drilled holes. Okay, I'm going to position that into my plate mate. Now I've got my, the glare will disappear in a minute. Let me just bring that over to get rid of that glare. I'm going to position that on top of my super foam. And now what I'm going to do, I've also turned my work over so we're looking at the front, because we do all the embossing from the back and all the perforating from the front. Okay. Now what I need to do, I've put it in the same direction as I did last week in relation to the top left-hand corner, because that's what works for me. And now we're going to position our embossed pattern over the perforated holes underneath. Okay, so I'm just going to bring my head in slightly. We need a couple of, definitely need Groovi tabs for this. And what I'm also going to do before I do, I'm going to just put a Groovi plate, a Groovi tab on my plate and plate mate, so that that doesn't move at all. Now we're going to line up the design again. So I'm looking at this corner here first, and then I'm going to just make sure it's all lined up. So I should be able to see all the perforations underneath, and the embossed dots go within those blank spaces. So I reckon that just needs a little wiggle down there. So I'm going to put one Groovi tab there. I'm going to grab another one from here and just make sure I'm fully lined up down this side, that I haven't wobbled at all. I reckon, yes, that's it. There we go. That's the hardest part. But it's not really that hard. It's just, once you get your eye in, it's easy. And if you look at one side first and then come down and then just give it a little slide around. Now, the light panel for me personally would be a lot easier. Okay, I'm just going to grab my glasses. It's got to that point where I need to wear my glasses. Old age comes to us all. Okay, are they clean? Yeah, they'll do. Definitely makes a difference. Just actually, now I put my glasses on, let me just make sure that it does. I reckon just needs moving. I'm glad I put my glasses on. Let me just release that because it just needs to slide up a fraction. I reckon there. Quick, put the Groovi tab down so it doesn't move. Yes. That tiny little bit makes all the difference. There we go. Right. Okay. Whew. I said that was the hardest part. And it really is. But you have to spend that little bit of time just to make sure that it is lined up perfectly. Okay, so let's get going. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to use my Groovi guard to concentrate on the areas. I'm going to use my 1 needle bowl tool. Now, traditionally where you're using a paper pattern underneath and the parchment over the top, I remember once testing a plate for that was going into design for Josie, and I was holding the needle at an angle as I was perforating. And what happened was, when I took the paper pattern away and I looked at what was left on the parchment, it looked as if someone had just gone blah, 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 blah with it. It didn't look anything like the pattern was meant to be. Because if you're using a traditional pattern, you have to hold the tool completely upright. Now, this is one of the great things about the grids, is because it will force you to hold the tool upright. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to go through and make perforations everywhere that we can see the little white holes underneath. Now, if I try and perforate one of these embossed dots, nothing's going to happen because there's no holes underneath. If we were working with a basic grid that has thousands of holes, this is where the counting would come into play. So I'm just going to follow through the design now, and you sort of get into a rhythm. Now, I know if Josie was doing this, she'd probably use a 2 needle bolt, but I quite like the rhythm of just using a 1 needle. Yeah, and then all I'm doing is just following the design. I can talk to you, I'm not counting. I don't have to worry about where I'm going because it's all there in place. So who had a go at this one last week? Did anyone have you got the Queen Elizabeth? Have you had a play? Did you manage to get it all lined up? I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. See, I like the fact that with these lovely Duet plates, that they work separately to create beautiful design, but then they also work independent. So you may just like the design perforated without any embossed dots in between it. Or you may just like the embossed. See, I quite like the embossed dots as a pattern on its own. See? There we go. Probably sounds really... See, it's that sound as well, isn't it? Now, once you've started, what you'll find, you know how when we're tracing out a design and we lift our parchment off, and if we haven't attached it to the plate mate, it slots back into the grooves. Well, the perforating does exactly the same. So in a moment, when we come to turn this around, we're going to overlay it on part of the existing design, and it will slot into the holes. So it makes the lining up even more easy. More easy? makes it easy. Easy. Oh, my South London coming out of me. Is anyone joining in today? Or are you just watching? I know a lot of people say that just watching someone doing Groovi is quite therapeutic. And I must admit, when I was watching Linda a few weeks back when we was in the Pergamano school, it is very relaxing, very sort of chilled out. But I really never thought that I would be doing Gridwork, let alone parchment craft. Now, another option you have when you're working with this, now I'm using a single needle tool, so it goes through the parchment and through the perforations quite easily. But you may find that what will help is, thank you for Jilly for the prompt, is a tumble dry sheet. Okay, so if I lift this up and pop this underneath, then what will happen every time I perforate, it will lubricate the needle. Okay, so if you're using the multi-needle tools that we covered with Linda's Volume 1 book during the Pergamano School last year and this year, then the tumble dry sheet will definitely make a difference, especially with a tool that has lots and lots of needles in them. Okay. It doesn't make that clicky sound. See, I quite like the clicky sound. But it's being perforated, not being perforated, it's being lubricated every time we perforate. Okay. And it doesn't take long once you get into the rhythm of it. You may decide to do let me show you something. If I go, so I know what I want to do in my head, but talking and doing it is completely, it could go wrong, but it won't. Because what I'm doing now is using my Groovi guard along this line. So I want to show how you can just use elements of the perforations. You don't always have to do the whole pattern. Okay. So when we have a look now, all I've done is I've just perforated. Can't really see that. It's coming on this one. And if I zoom in a little bit, let me just, right, which way in is to the right. Ooh, there we go. And if I take a black piece of card, this should do the trick. So if I slide this black piece of card, yeah, you can see that, can't you? Would it be better on that one? Not really. I reckon we could come in a little bit closer. So we're going to come in. I don't want it to go out of focus. If I slide that down a little bit, yeah, you can really see that. It says, oh, can't pull my chair in now. Okay, so we can see over here how we've started to perforate the whole of the design, how Josie's designed it, and then moving along, I've just done the outer part. So you may decide that you just want to do the outer part and picot cut, or just use it for decorative purposes. Okay, so what's going to happen shortly is that we're going to run, take the card out. I'm thinking, where's all my holes gone? And then realised I had the card underneath. But it's really, see, I tried to go into that embossed dot there. Let me come back on this camera. So if I now come over this way and down that way, there we go. So Jilly just said it wasn't Jilly that spotted, I'd missed it, it was Mary. Thank you, Mary. Okay, now I've run out of holes, okay, because there's nowhere for me to go. So what we shall do now is go back in and complete the rest of the pattern. See, I said at the beginning we needed the tumble dry sheet, but then I just forgot to use it. Because last week, before we started doing our embossing of the design, remember I wiped both sides of the parchment. So that means if I now want to go in and do some embossing on the reverse, the tumble dry sheet won't catch on all the perforations. There we go. See, Josie, she's got a lot to answer for, hasn't she? Coming up with these beautiful designs, making it achievable for everybody to create beautiful artwork. I know. She's a temptress. Okay, what's Anne just saying? The other camera angle is better. Okay, so let's have a look. There we go. So if I move back over this way, there we go. Right. So we can see from above how I'm holding the tool. Well, I'm not holding the tool. I am, but I'm not, because it's the grid that is forcing the tool to stay upright. And I hold like a flute or a recorder, and that's what I find more comfortable for me. So we're doing this in real time for people at home that are doing it as well, rather than saying, right, here's one I made earlier. I think that we have to do that on TV when we demonstrate, because obviously we're limited on time. And obviously it's shopping telly, isn't it? So we're there to sell our lovely products. And we're just going to go along. So yeah, I don't know. It is easy. And I'm not saying it just because I'm on here showing you what to do. It is easy. Okay, so we've come to the end there, and then we're going to do this side. So what I'm going to do, I like to work across from myself, so I'm going to turn my work round. Now there is another row of dots down there, but I'm going to ignore those for the time being. And then we're just going to carry on with this. Now, are there any questions that I can't see? I can't. Let's have a look. Let's have a quick breather. Right, okay. So I'm sure Jilly will text me if there's anything that somebody's asked. But I know the lovely Josie herself is in the room, so she will be there answering some lovely questions. And as I say, don't forget the Clarity Matters blog. Josie's created some beautiful step-by-step tutorials using some of the other grids that I showcased at the beginning of the hour. So maybe you've got one of those and you want to give one of those a go. But at least you've got the video tutorials that we're doing on Groovi Tuesday to go back and watch at your own pace. And then think, oh, what did he say about this? Why did he do that? You can stop and start, you can fast forward. Imagine if I do this and then you fast forward this bit. That's like Josie with her needle tools. It's like a sewing machine when she gets going. She really is. I remember the first time I watched Josie do the perforating, and it was like blah, 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 blah. It was like one of those manual sewing machines. Really was. I just really get into it and enjoy the moment. And it's great because you can stop and start whenever you want to. You haven't got to do the whole frame in one go. You may decide to do some of it, and then you can go back and do other parts. We don't need to rush it, do we? Crafting's not necessarily about rushing, and unless you've got a last minute card to do, then obviously you've got to get that sorted. But I think for Groovi and parchment craft, it's one of those crafts where you can chill, take your time, and really enjoy it. And if you've got the right tools and the right equipment, then it just makes it so much more easy. Oh God, no, it makes it easier. I don't know, my grammar's terrible. So Gina just said, Pat has asked, can you use the perforated part of the plate to emboss? Yes, you can, Pat. Because back in the day when we've only had our basic grids, that's what we used to do. We used to emboss with the basic grids, and we would perforate as well, because that's all we had. We didn't think about embossing dots into a Groovi plate, because we were learning ourselves then about grid work and patterns and doing all that counting. So absolutely you can, and you'll get a different design if you emboss the perforated holes instead of perforating them, if that makes sense. Maybe I'll show you that in a moment. I have a little bit of a sip of coffee and a recap. We'll just get this right hand corner done first. And I think Josie's right. If you're looking for a beautiful plate to get started with, then I think Queen Elizabeth would be one to go for. If you're brand new to Gridwork, then there's not much embossing, there's not much perforating. It's a beautiful, delicate little design, and it just will enhance what you have. It sounds a little bit croaky today. I think it's all that talking on TV yesterday. Right, okay. So let's carefully remove my Groovi tabs. Pop those to one side. Lift that away. Now what I'm going to do is come in on this camera. Let's turn it around so it's upright. There we go. So you can see now. Woo, there we go. My eyes are just refocused. I've just lifted my glasses up and I'm just refocusing my eyes. So how easy was that? It was, wasn't it? Because Josie has done all that work for us, it just makes it so much easier. I'm going to try and think of a different word because I keep saying it wrong. Okay, so let's take a scrap of parchment and have a look at what Pat was saying. So where's my scraps of parchment gone? Okay, I've got a piece here. So I'm going to take my piece of parchment and I'm looking for my tumble dry sheet. It's underneath. Okay. I'm going to wipe this side and I'm going to wipe that side. Okay. And I'm looking at the perforated side of the design. So I'm not looking at the embossed pattern, which is over here. And it doesn't matter what side I do this on, because I'll get the same result. Okay, so Groovi guard. So you're going to use the number 2 tool. to do the embossing, just like we did on the other side. So now if I push into those dots, I'm now stretching the parchment and embossing the design. Okay. So just give it a little push. And we've got that pattern there. Now, let me just show you the difference. If I now go, I'm going to turn the plate over as if we were doing the embossing. Look at the same area, and that potentially could infill. Let me just bring that down a little bit. So that would infill, if I wanted to, that part of the design. Okay, so let's just do it on one of them. I just want to show you different options. Okay, so that's going to be embossed. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go back to the perforated side, turn that back over because it says perforate this side up. I'm going to turn my parchment over, and now I can't do anything with that, but if I just, let me just line that up on there, just so that you can then see the difference. So if I now take my one needle bold, let's just go, and I haven't put the tumble dry sheet underneath because this is just like a little bit of playing, just to answer Pat's question. I'll do one more. See, I get carried away. One more and then I'll stop. So we're going to go along. Put my glasses back on, that helped. There we go. They were sitting on my head. I'm thinking, why can't I see it so clearly? There we go. So now, let's bring that in underneath. So this is the perforated part, using the perforated part on the plate. This is the embossing done with the perforated part of the plate. And then this is the embossing done with both parts. So depending on the design, you can come up with different combinations. So if you didn't want to necessarily do any perforating, then you can reposition your embossed pattern and emboss around it. And that's what you would end up with when we look at that particular design. Okay. So, take the glasses off, refocus. Woo! How we get? I can't. Is it really 1:45? Blimey O'Reilly, as they say. I didn't realise it was 1:45 already. Okay, I'm going to breathe. I need to show you some lovely bits that we've got coming up. Let me just pop this to one side so I don't lose it. No, I don't need that bit. That will go over there. Right, okay. So we've done a little bit of perforating. We will carry on before the end of the hour, but I wanted to show, we've got the, say this, where I can zoom back out now. And stretch. I'll come out slowly so it's not a, there we go. So we have this lovely little plate, as I said, that is now available, and 50% of those, 50% of the proceeds go to the Red Cross for what's going on in Ukraine. Then on tomorrow, tomorrow already, at 6 o'clock on the craft store, Barbara will be launching a brand new Groovi one-day special from the lovely Linda Williams. Beautiful designs, I'm going to talk a little bit about it. For those of you familiar with the Groovi system that have been with us for a few years now, will be familiar with the beautiful flowers and lace plates from Linda. And it started off with 4 plates, and there was a lovely II book. Then the following year, I think it was, we released the second set. So it's got the beautiful aquilegia, there's roses, there's what else? I think there's cosmos, some really nice designs. Okay. And Barb had a word with Linda, I think it was towards the end of last year or this year, said, any more of those beautiful flower lace plates? And Linda being Linda, she said, I may have 1 or 2 in the pipeline. So this is the latest collection from Linda Williams. So we've got 4 beautiful, let me take them out of the packaging so you can really see the beauty of the plates. So we have the cone flower. You've got a lovely frame, and then you've got the beautiful bouquets of flowers. If you're new to Groovi, then these are perfect for getting started for quick and easy artwork. Okay, then we have the lovely daffodil, March, perfect. Look at this though, lace and flowers. You can see where the name comes from, can't you? Then we have the next one. Now I love this one, the hydrangea. You've got that, it's like a beautiful pillow effect. And what we'll showcase over the launch of the one-day special is how you can take the frames and use them independent of one another, or you can take the planes exactly as they come and trace them out. And then finally, the 4th one in the collection is the lovely primrose. I mean, look at this. Okay, so let's bring the plates in one at a time, and I'll show you some artwork that Linda has created. I mean, the design team, what they've done is just, wait till we show you tomorrow evening. So this is the cone flower, and this is the piece of artwork that Linda has created using that. Okay, a lovely little doodle, aperture dies, enhancing what we already have. Okay, so brand new to Groovi, you can absolutely achieve that. No problems whatsoever, using our lovely rainbow parchment in the background. So that's the cone flower. Then I did have these in order. Then we have the lovely daffodil. And we have this piece here. Look at that. Now, you know where we talk about the beauty of the Groovi system, where you can pick and choose the different elements. Now, what Linda's done, she's taken part of the daffodil on this design and part of another design on there to infill. But look, just using the scalloped part, not even using all the infill, gives you this. And she loves her doodle frames, does our Linda. So we've got that one there. Next, we have the hydrangea. Look at this. Seriously? You can do this. If you are brand new to Groovi, you can do this. Not necessarily the picot cutting, but the layout, the concept, the design. You can achieve this. You really can, with ease. And then finally, we have the primrose. Look at that rainbow parchment. Isn't that beautiful? Really, really beautiful. It really is. Look, doodle dies again, just to finish it off. So, so that's just 4 of the samples that Linda has done that Barbara and myself will be showcasing on the one-day special. So it launches on createandcraft.com tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Then again at 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. So maybe you're coming in from work, you can catch up at 9 o'clock. Then on Thursday at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. because all of the ODS, since Create and Craft came together, the ODS hours have changed. So it used to be 6, 8 in the evening, then it was 8, 12, and 4. What was it? Anyway, the new hours, that's all you need to worry about, is 6 o'clock launch tomorrow night, 9 p.m. tomorrow night. I hope you can join me for that one, so I'm not on my own. And then Thursday at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. for the final live hour. So that's what we've got coming up tomorrow. Then obviously on Thursday, you've got the Shack with Barb. What else have we got on my schedule of list? I think that's just enough to keep you going for this week. So, so should we get back and do a little bit more perforating? I can sort of see all of a sudden when I started showing those plates, I could see from the corner of my eye all these comments popping up on the side. So, so yeah, so I hope you can join us for that. We will have the previous 2 collections available on the createandcraft.com, and we've put a beautiful collection of all 12 of the plates with the II book together as well. So we've got something to suit every single budget. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, so where's my plate mate gone? So let's go back and carry on. So perforate this side up. We're going to come back in on the overhead. Now, you know, I was talking about where if I'd missed anything, it slots back in. Okay. What you'll find is that it literally slots back in to where you've perforated. And for me, that makes it so much more easy of when I turn it round and I now come to reposition. So I'm going to come in on this camera while I do this so I can get my head in over the top. So down here, these are slotted into the perforations, which means that this will now be lined up perfectly. Okay. Now, what I need to be aware of is that this pattern underneath is, let me come along this one. The pattern along here is longer than my design. So what I'm going to do, so that I don't make a mistake, I'm just going to take maybe a piece of card or something, and I'm going to pop that just there. Okay, just one piece of card will be sufficient. I'm going to pop it just there, and I'm going to hold it down with some Groovi tabs. But let's tape our parchment down first, so that doesn't move. So that's slotted into place. That's all lined back up. So let's hold our parchment in place first. Just like so. And now I shall tape this piece of card in place. And what this will do, it will stop me getting carried away with my design, because the pattern underneath is longer than my embossed part. So shall I zoom in for a little bit more? Let's just zoom in just on this final bit. So we'll zoom in, there we go. Easy does it. Don't want to come in too close. Right, okay. Whee. It says falling off his chair. Okay. And now I can continue with my perforations. So it's the same as tumble dry sheet underneath. You know what? For the last 5 minutes or so, I'm not going to worry about the tumble dry sheet underneath. Okay. So you're just going to go along and perforate. But that, I mean, I could use my Groovi guard to act as my marker, but because my Groovi guard is going to move, see, if I was coming from this way and going across, I would potentially get carried away. So the card is a really good tip for just stopping you from doing that. So if I just carry on and do this bit here. And how do you think I know to put a piece of card there? Do you reckon I got carried away before and perforated where I shouldn't have perforated? What do you think? I bet you've done it at home as well, haven't you? I bet even Josie's probably got carried away before with her design. Go on, Josie. Have you done it before? I'm going to see if have a look. I'm sure. Maybe not. She is the queen of grids after all. But hey ho. You know what? You make a little mistake like that, and then you just pop a little butterfly over it. It's a piece of parchment. That's all it is. It's a piece of parchment. So if you need to start again, frustrating, yes, I know. But if you need to start again, then practice makes perfect. Keep it. Keep the bit where you make a mistake. Put it in a folder with all your other little bits and pieces, and then you'll remember, right, where did I go wrong last time? Ah, yeah, I should have marked off and put a piece of paper or a card there so I don't get carried away. See? So I reckon next week we're going to carry on with this, and I will have perforated the rest of it, he says. I'll probably do it on Tuesday morning before we go live. I will have perforated the rest of this frame, and then we can have a look at some options. Okay, so if you're following along at home, then all you need to do is finish off the perforating. Okay, so you've got a week. You've got a week to do. There's no rush. If you've just been watching along today, then you can go back and have a look. But just those few little top tips, just like the tumble dry sheet underneath, will help with the lubrication of the needles. The using the piece of card to stop you getting carried away. Groovi guard is definitely makes a difference. If I was doing this, the parchment just keeps popping up. It blouses and it's pulling up. And it makes it harder then for me to see where I'm going. Whereas with the Groovi guard, it really does help that and stop it happening. And it also concentrates my eye, because I'm not looking at the bigger picture, if that sort of makes sense. Because we don't need to be looking at the bigger picture, because we've already created that when we've done the embossing, and now we just need to concentrate on the perforating. So we'll just finish this little bit off here. So we've got completion on this side, or partial completion anyway. But we'll just go right up to the white card. And rather than stop it and go, oh, I know. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today. And I hope you'll join me again next week, where we'll carry on with this beautiful piece of lace work or grid work. And I hope you can join Barbara and myself tomorrow on Create and Craft at 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock tomorrow. All right, let's have a look. Take my glasses off now. So look, we're almost done, aren't we? Let me zoom out now. Let me zoom out. Out we come. There we go. Let's move the plate and the design out of the way. So the only part really I've got to do now, which isn't going to take too long, I've done more than what I thought actually, is just this bottom row here. And we know now how we can easily reposition because it slots back into place. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take this lovely plate, and I think we'll create a little piece of artwork to go in the centerpiece. And I'm going to create it on a separate piece of parchment. Okay. So thank you for joining me again this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday. I say one day special tomorrow night, designs by the lovely Linda Williams. Barbara launching at 6 o'clock and then me at 9 o'clock. Barbara's in the shack on Thursday at 10 o'clock, carrying on with the beautiful designs. And I will see you all next week. So take care, everybody, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.